Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and this time around we're going to go from big to small. We're going to go to an ultralight reel. This is an Okuma Ultralite F10. And I picked this one because I just finished with a Shimano AX500. Whether this one gets to the video before then or not, I don't know. But here's the thing. Folks seem to think that if you have an inexpensive reel like that Shimano reel, or if you have a small reel, which may also be inexpensive, that for some reason you don't need to take care of them. You use them, you abuse them, you throw them out, and you buy new. Well, I guess that's one approach, but you can certainly take the time and the effort to tune these reels up and make sure that they last more than one season or the like. Now this one, yeah, it's a pond reel, and we got a little bit of mud here, it looks like. We got a lot of dust, which means it's been sitting up in the rafters, probably in a garage or maybe in a cabin or maybe in a shed or something in the off season. It's dirty, but there's no reason why this reel shouldn't be maintained just like all of the other reels that you see in my videos here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's relatively simple. It's a short time to invest, and it'll get you going for the whole season. Just because it's an ultralight or it's inexpensive doesn't mean that you shouldn't take care of the reel. I'm going to start by stripping off the external pieces. We're going to start by taking the handle off. This handle had a screw in it. You can always tell if you have a screw in it if you turn the handle and that button is moving. Let's just put it back for a moment just to show you. If you see that button moving, that means that the handle is going straight through. And what I like to do most of the time when I do these, don't do it all the time, but I like to put that screw right back into the handle. That way I don't lose it, and I like to put the handle and all the other pieces and parts into a parts tray. In this case, that's the bottom of a milk jug. You'll also notice I have a protective glove in my hand here to take care of any rogue chemicals that may be inside this. Kind of doubt it. I don't think anybody's done anything with this reel, and that's probably why it's wound up the way it has. Well, here you go. Somebody decided that this reel doesn't work because you've got some string in there that got wrapped around the axle, and probably just put it on the side. I got this as part of a group of reels that was sold on Facebook Marketplace. So there you go. So we'll get that out of the way. And next up then, we're going to show you how to service the reel. So this is a little click ratchet. It tells you when your drag is operating. There's a little tongue here that will flip back and forth, making a noise when you're spinning out. See if we can create that noise right now, actually. I don't know if you could hear that, but it's making that noise. And then there's a little shim washer on top of it. We'll take both of those off. There's actually two shim washers on there. And again, we'll just put those right in to the parts tray. That way when we go to reinstall, we'll know where they are. Just a second, and then your click washer comes out. That's going to enable us to open this up and get to the bottom of this. So let's take a wrench. Now in this case, interestingly enough, I just started to think doing what I was doing normally in terms of an untightened a counterclockwise motion, and it tightened it up. So you want to just go in the opposite direction. Don't try to force it, but this one actually is reverse threaded, and it has a clockwise release, and then we can pull off the rotor, and we'll see in this case we have a bushing, we don't have a bearing. Now if you needed to replace that bushing at some point, you could take the screws out of this, but that's just a plastic bushing. Not much is going excuse me, not much is going on there, and it's just simple to note. Yeah, we could put a drop of oil or so on in there, but not much more. There's 3 screws here in the side plate. Let's go ahead and take those out. Those are Phillips heads, and I have a number 1 size Phillips head screwdriver here, and these are very small screws, so if that doesn't work, go to a micro size. They have these little sets. They're available pretty inexpensively, a couple dollars. If you needed to, go grab one of those as a micro screwdriver, but in this case they're working. And what I'm doing here is I'm laying that screw on my table because I want to make sure that all of these side plate screws are the same size. If they're not the same size, then you want to note where the longer or the shorter ones came out of, so that when you go to reinstall, you don't get it wrong. There's one reel in particular, the Shimano's. I don't remember which one, might be the Sedona or whatever, but there's one where you have two screws, one on the butt plate and one on the side, and if you put it in backwards, you're going to impact the performance of the reel. Okay, these three are the same size, so I'm going to take those and put those into the work tray here. Then we should be able to take the side plate off. That was easy enough. Note on this, even though we're going to be able to pull this whole assembly off with this bushing in place, there's two tabs on this bushing. You want to make sure when you go to reinstall that they fit in those grooves. If you don't fit in the grooves, then you're not going to be able to get the side plate off. Also notice this down here. There's a little spring, might be hard to see there, but there's a spring here that if you go and move this now, that's going to shoot out. So just be aware that that's there, and that gives you the tension for your anti-reverse override. Okay, so there's your bush. That's got the two little wings on it. And then once we pull that pin, we should be able to pull the main gear. Now here's another fun thing. This main gear has a little hook. You can see it from here. That little hook is going to go into this little ridge on the anti-reverse dog. And many of you are probably wondering, how in the world am I going to get that hook in there? I can't see when I'm putting the main gear in. Well, that's why this little hole is in the main gear here. You're going to use that kind of as a peephole. You're going to align this little bend in the thing with that so you have a sight line, and then you're going to be able to put it in. We'll do that in a moment. Okay, so I took that off then. Pull the pin out that holds the crosswind arm, then pull up on the axle shaft, and that's your main body for this reel. Again, very simple in construction, not very difficult at all, and all we want to do is make sure we get some lubrication on there. We're going to start by using fishing reel grease. In this case, the fishing reel grease is a pen reel grease. You want to make sure that the greases and the oils you're using are designed for fishing reels. It doesn't matter if you're using pen or if you're using somebody else's grease. Daiwa, Okuma makes hot sauce, whatever. Just make sure that it's fishing reel grease. Okay, there's a little trip arm here underneath I like to put oil on. And then I'm going to go put the rotor back on. I just took the rotor off to show you how all of that works. Remember, this reverse screws, so let's make sure that what would normally be a take it off position counterclockwise is how it tightens. And I did that to pull that pinion gear up. And then you can just kind of give it a run. You can see how this is working. Next up, we want to take a look at this. It's dead dry, which is probably why it's been performing as it has. So let's check the teeth on this, make sure that they're uniform and not worn. Check it from both sides. Look at it on this piece too. That'll show you the wear ones. Get a little bit on the back of this for the part where it's going to go into the bushing. And now here's the sight line deal. You want to take the hole, you want to line up that little piece of metal with it, and you want to get a good lighting source like I have here, and then just kind of line it up so that it slides in like such. And that'll ensure that you have the dog working on the anti-reverse. Okay, there's a flat side to this that belongs up top with the threads. This is the bottom side, it's round. That's the next piece. So once it's clean, and this one's been clean, put a little bit of reel grease on there, slide that in through the hole, and then line up the little stud pin. Now the long side came out, I noticed that. The short side was for the arm. Always take notes, take pictures if you need to, so that if you get confused along the way, or you were just rushing and you weren't paying attention, then you say, oh my gosh, how did that work? Well, you'll know because you can go back to your picture. Now putting some grease on the outside. I'm going to grab that crosswind arm now, put that over. I'm going to work the gear up so that we have the alignment right. And now that's how that reinstalls. And then the bushing. Now, so we got 3 bushings, no ball bearings in this one. As I mentioned, there's 2 slots in this case here. You want to make sure that the 2 studs go into those slots. If this is not flush here, if you got the 2 studs outside those slots, it's going to ride proud and you won't be able to put this back on. Last thing I'm going to do before I put it back on then is just a little bit of grease onto the shaft where it's going to go into the case. Turn the case around, put that in. Here, a nice snap, give it a spin. Seems like we've got that right. And we can take those 3 side plate screws. So it doesn't take much to do what I'll call an ultralight, well, it is an ultralight reel. I'll call them a pond reel. But it's just enough that we saw it was dry in there, it didn't have any maintenance, and eventually it's going to fail because of that. And all we did was we took about 10 minutes here and just made sure that it has the greases and the oils necessary to keep it running for another season. And then we'll clean up the outside a little bit here, do a little bit more oiling onto the bales assembly, and we'll just check that drag up top. Now most of the time you don't have a lot of drag in ultralight reels. You're basically fighting 1-2 pound fish. But this is an entry-level ultralight. It seems to have been neglected over time, but that's okay. We're taking care of it now. All right, I'm just going to use a little bit of a gentle degreaser. This is Purple Power. And just use my paper towel here just to get some of that surface grease off. A lot of dust, a lot of signs of inactive use here. My guess is this reel is probably a $15, $20 reel maybe. It's not a very expensive one, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done. If this was a roller bearing, you would want to do what I just did here, which is to oil it. I'm going to slip a little bit of oil into each side. We've already oiled the little trip lever underneath. Just work it in. That's fine. Come back here, we're going to put that click rotor assembly onto the axle shaft. I'm going to grab those 2 little shims. So on these shim washers are for the control of the way that the line wraps onto the spool. If you find you're winding top heavy, then you would remove a shim. If you're bottom heavy, you would add another shim. But in this case, it's minimalized there. All right, last part then is just a quick look at those drags. This is a typical spinning fishing reel drag system. You have a clip that's riding in the cavity. We got a lot of dirt on here, so my guess is this probably was sitting in a pond somewhere, probably on a twig or something, and what happened was it got dirty and not cleaned. These are felt washers, so felt washers get oil. There should be 1, 2. I'm looking for the other metal washer. There we go. Alright, so what we want to do then is we want to make sure they're clean. They appear to be clean. We want to clean out the cavity underneath. We'll put the first one in, drop of oil. And the oil will keep it from tearing. That's what this one's all about. Okay, then put the second one in. The middle one always is going to use that eared washer. Now this was stuck because it was drying. Here's your eared washer. It has those 2 clips on it, you can see. They ride into the channel. Last of the felt washers then. Another drop of oil on that. And this top one's got a little bit of dirt and debris on it, so let's clean that one off. Just using a paper towel. Press down to make sure that the whole stack is there. And then this is a spring, be careful, but you want to seat that into the groove and make sure that it seats all the way around. So that's the spool. Let's get that back on. Let's take the, and we can clean that up while we're at it. Again, that kind of shows you where this reel has been because it's got a lot of dirt on the cap. And it's not uncommon when we're fishing these little ponds and small streams and the like. There's muddy banks, and undoubtedly that's where this one has been, in between being up in the rafters or sitting in the corner of a shed or whatever it might be. But again, it's not a reason why you wouldn't want to maintain a reel like this. The oils and greases are cheap. The effort is not that significant. You just saw it done in probably a couple of minutes here. And just because it's inexpensive doesn't mean it doesn't deserve to be serviced. Unless you just want to burn through a lot of money, in which case just keep going buying those other ones and put these out on the table, and I'll continue to buy them and tune them up and make sure that they get put back to use. There you go. That's how you know that you got that little hook on the main gear into the anti-reverse. If you weren't able to have full function in terms of both sides of it, you would not be working properly. Okay, that's it. It's that simple. This is the Okuma Ultralite. It's the FS10 size. It's got no ball bearings. You don't need ball bearings for the pond. If you're catching little panfish or crappie or any of that stuff, there's not enough fight in that thing that it matters. You do have a pretty significant drag system there if you do tie into a bass while you're at it. But again, you know, for the amount of time that you're going to be working, you really don't need the ball bearings, and you're not going to be wearing this out that much. So I hope you've learned something from it. That's what this is all about. It's instructional, and you know, I'm here to show you how to repair reels, and I also repair reels. So if you find that there's ever a reel that you're just stuck on or a little intimidated by, and you want to get somebody to work on it, just shoot me a note, and you know, we can work on that for you. Please subscribe. If you like this type of a video, please subscribe. I do quite a few of the reels that come across my my desk as a service to my customers, but also as an educational thing for the folks that are viewing it. So subscribe, like it, comments, even if it's not about this particular reel, you have a comment or a real question, please leave it in the comments. I try to reply to all. So with that, I'm going to wish you a good day. I hope you've enjoyed it. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.